Games like Pokemon Go, Among Us, Four Guys That Made Knockout, Hollow Knight, Monument Valley 2, and even Angry Birds were all made in Unity. Now, because this is new year, this is 2026, I gave myself 2 days to master game development in Unity. In this video, I'm gonna take you along and show you the steps that I took for me to master game development in just 2 days. And when I was getting started, I was like, yeah, this got to be one of the easiest things that I got to achieve in 2026. But boy, was I wrong. Just like anything else that you wanna learn in life, you gotta have goals.
What are your long-term career goals?
One of the goals for me was number 1, to install all the necessary software, to familiarize myself with the interface, to learn as much as I could so that I can create a playable game. That is exactly what I'm gonna do in the next 48 hours. In the first 2 hours, I went ahead and installed all the necessary softwares. I got to tell you, this is the point where most people quit. Just so you know, for you to create 3D or 2D games in Unity, you're going to need 3 software. First, you're going to need the actual Unity engine, also known as the Unity Hub. And using Unity Hub, you're going to go ahead and install Unity Editor. And again, you're going to also need Microsoft Visual Studio. To do this, first, go to the official Unity website at unity.com and download the Unity Hub. Once the download finishes, open the installer and follow the setup steps. After installing Unity Hub, open it and sign in, or if you don't have an account, create a free account, create a free Unity account. Inside Unity Hub, click on Installs and then Install Editor and choose the latest LTS version. When prompted, make sure you select Microsoft Visual Studio, click Install and wait for the editor and modules to download.
A few moments later.
Once installation is complete, now we can begin the fun.
Let's party!
Before we start messing around with the Unity editor, first we need to familiarize ourselves with it. We need to know where to put what. What you're looking at right now is Unity editor. But first, let me draw your attention to the left part. On the left, there is a highlight window. Okay, so I learned so quickly that this is a part where you put your objects, like game objects, the camera, the lights. In the center, there is center view. This is where you visually place, move, or edit objects in your game world. At the top center, the play button lets you learn and test your game instantly. When you click on the play button, the editor opens in game view. Whatever animation or whatever you wanted to implement, you're going to see it right away. On the right, there is Inspector. This part is mostly used for adjusting settings, components, as well as properties. What happens is when you click on an object in the left side or in the highlight window, the settings, the properties, and the components show up on the Inspector panel. You can adjust almost anything there. You can adjust the light of your scene, the camera setting, color of the light, and the color of almost anything. At the bottom, there is a project window. This is where all your game assets are gonna stay. I'm talking scripts, materials, scenes, models, and many more. Finally, there is also Console tab. This Console tab is there to help you debug the game in the process of building a game. Any error that you are going to encounter is going to be shown there. Just a side note, if the console brings a message in yellow, it means it's not that serious. It's not game breaking. However, if it brings something in red, it may be game breaking. So what you do is you create the messages. If the messages can be created, that means you can go ahead and you play the game. The game is gonna play smoothly. But if you can't remove by pressing create, that means it's game breaking. The game cannot play without resolving that error. Took my time to learn all these things so that when I got into business, I shouldn't be surprised at anything. In the next 3 hours, I learned a couple of things. I learned that I could create game objects like cubes, spheres, planes, or empty objects directly in the scene and use them as the building blocks of my game. I also learned that I can create game objects in 2 ways. Okay, first, by clicking on game object right here, okay, I can select any object or any game object that I want to create. And that game object is going to appear in the highlight tab. But also, I can left click in the highlight tab, select on game objects, and I can select any game objects that I want to create. For example, for us to create a cube, we're going to go on game object right here, and we're going to select on cube. As you can see, a small cube has been added inside our scene view. Double click on the cube on the highlight side. On inspector side, you're gonna see all sorts of things that we can do with it. First, let me draw attention to this side where we can mess around with the size of it. We're gonna give it a width of feet and a length of feet as well. And as you can see, this can be a base for our game. This can be a base on which various game objects will be able to stand or will be able to move.
Hi.
Okay. It was also within this part that I was introduced to materials. I learned that it was a good practice to organize everything in folders. So for you to create folders, first go to project, and inside project click on assets. And then inside the assets, left click there and click on create empty, and you're gonna create an empty folder. Let's name that folder texture. Drag and drop the textures inside the texture folder. If you want these textures, you can get them by clicking the first link below. You can drag and drop the texture from here onto your game object, and your game object is gonna take the texture of what you've included. For example, if we take the texture of a floor and apply it to the cube that we created earlier, this is the texture that you're gonna have. If you want to create a fence as well, or if you want to create a wall as well, you can drag and drop the texture of this wall and apply it on your wall, and your game object is gonna take that texture. There are a lot of properties and aspects that we can mess around, but for now, let's leave it like that and move on to the next element that I also learned within these hours.
Moving on.
It was also within these hours that I was introduced to prefabs. Prefabs allow someone to save objects and use them anywhere in the project, which makes building faster and more consistent. So how do we create prefabs? Now let's press Ctrl D. That will duplicate this cube. Using your mouse, pressing Ctrl and using your mouse, you can move your cube to the other side. As you can see, we have created the two cubes. You can also press Ctrl D again to duplicate. You can do that again and again. And in the end, in the hierarchy part, you're going to have a lineup of cubes. In hierarchy part, left click and click on create game object and name that game object as a floor, and select all the cubes that you created and drag them and drop them under the floor. Whenever you want to move the floor as a whole thing, you can click on floor and you'll be able to move it as I am doing right here by moving the mouse left and right. Again, it was also within these hours that I learned how the lighting works. Whenever you open a new project, editor is gonna display three things. It's gonna display a sample scene, and it's gonna have a camera and direction light. Okay, so first let's play with this direction light. First, let's click on direction light and go to inspector. Okay, in inspector, you can rotate it to 100 degrees or 180 degrees, or you can rotate it to 90 degrees. And as you can see, the direction light is going to be changing. Again, you can also change the intensity of the light. You can also change the color of the light itself. By adjusting this, the settings in the inspector panel, you can increase the intensity of the light, or you can decrease the intensity of light, or you can rotate it in such a way the shadow is gonna be also moving. So that's how I learned the lighting and the shadow combined. In hours 6 and 7, I learned about downloadable assets and where to get them. Just so you know, assets are pre-made models, the textures, the sound, and tools that save time during development. I got to tell you, I was very excited when I started scrolling in Sketchfab and the Unit Asset Store. On Sketchfab, you can search for any 3D model, check the alliances, download them, and unzip them onto your computer. And to import them, I simply dragged the model folder into the asset window, and boom, there it was. Again, another place where you can find all sorts of assets is Unit Asset Store. And this one is actually hosted by Unit itself. For the Unit Asset Store, you can browse directly inside the Unit Hub or through their Asset Store website. And don't worry about Unit Asset Store, because later I'm going to talk about it at length when I'll be talking about importing a character into the game in third person or in first person. So let's move on.
Moving on.
After that, it was already pretty late, so I went to bed. The next morning, I had my breakfast and jumped straight on my computer. The goal was to learn 7 more hours. Okay, in hours 8 and 9, I learned about gravity and physics in Unity. I explored how gravity affects objects and how physics brings the game world to life. I experimented with the different colliders like box colliders and mesh colliders to control how objects interact and collide with each other. I gotta say, playing around with these helped me understand how movement, collision, realism work inside Unity. At this point, you may be asking yourself, how do you add gravity or physics in Unity? It's very simple. Just select the game object that you want to apply the physics on. You can select it in the highlight part, and once you click on it, go to inspector part and scroll down until you find add component, and select physics and select rigid body. Just like that, you've enabled gravity and physics on that object. Just to illustrate the point, let's create a sphere and let's drag this camera a little bit far so that it should be visible in the game object. So we're gonna click on the sphere, and in the inspector panel, we're gonna go down, we're gonna click on physics and add rigid body. And then when we click on play here, you're gonna see that sphere is able to fall down on its own. That is gravity and physics applied. Again, another issue that you have to know is that this ball is able to land on this floor because there is a collider. It's not each and every asset that you import into Unity that is gonna have a collider. Some assets will come without a collider. So for that, you got to add them on your own. So how do we add them, you ask? I'm glad you asked, because you follow the same steps. You click on the game object, and then in the inspector panel, you scroll down until you find the add component. You add physics to it, but this time around, instead of adding rigid body, you click on collider. There are a couple of colliders that you can go with. When it comes to floor, I learned that you can't go wrong with a box collider. So go ahead and add a box collider. And once you add box collider, you're going to see a green line right here. That is a box collider right there. You can adjust it up, down, or sideways, however you like. For example, if you take this game object, we take a sphere and put it above it and hit play. But with the collider on this time around, this thing is going to land. In hour 10, I learned about animation in Unity. I learned how to create simple animations like a door opening and closing in a loop. I created an animation by selecting the door object, opening the animation window, and recording the keyframes for each rotation. In the animation, you click on this record right here. First, you put it at 0, and then you adjust the keyframe. For example, if you want the door to open after 1 second, you're going to put 60. But if you want the door to open after 2 seconds, you're going to put 120. Okay, and if you want to close it after 3 seconds, you're going to put 180. And if you want the door to close after 6 seconds, you're gonna put the last keyframe at 360. Again, when you're done with your animation, click on the record again to end the recording. Just like that, the animation will be found in the animation folder. Right now, you may not see it, but if you hit play, you're going to see the door opening and closing. Okay, and if you look at the inspector panel, you can tick or untick loop. If you tick loop, the door is gonna keep opening and closing, on and on. In hour 11, I learned how to import a first-person controller from the Unity Asset Store. I opened the Asset Store and searched for starter asset. From the results, I selected the one made by Unity Technologies. Since I wanted a first-person controller, I chose the first-person option. When I clicked on it, it gave me the option to open it in Unity. Because Unity was already installed, the package manager opened automatically. All I had to do was click import to add it to my project. Sometimes the asset depends on other packages to work properly. So I installed all the required dependencies when prompted. Once the download was finished, I clicked import and crossed the package manager. To find the controller, I went to assets and then to starter assets and then first person and prefabs. Okay, and it's specifically we are looking for the player console right here. From there, I dragged and dropped the player controller into my scene. Now I had the character that could walk around in my game. How cool is that? You know, this would make more sense if we have another asset like this, and then you would walk around to see what is happening inside your game. Like I said, this is so cool. And at this point, I was so stoked. I was very excited like never before. Like in hour 12, I learned how to add audio to my game. This included the background music and sound effects. First, I imported audio files by dragging them into the assets folder in Unity. Unity automatically recognizes audio files like MP3 or WAV. To add background music, I selected an empty game object and added an audio source component. I assigned the music file to the audio clip field and turned on loop and set it to play when the game starts. As for the sound effect, I also added an audio source. I attached it to the game object that should make the sound like a door or a prayer action and assigned the sound effect. This part was probably the easiest part of all. In hour 13, I learned how to code in C# using Microsoft Visual Studio. My goal was to understand how to make objects move automatically and how to control a player using the standard keyboards. I also learned how movement works over time. By using time delta time, I can make movements smooth and consistent, no matter how fast the computer is. For automatic movement, I learned that I can move an object every frame inside the update method. This makes the object move continuously without any input. But what I also like is whatever object that you want to control, just click on it and add component. And on components, just click on script. That will automatically open Microsoft Visual Studio. All right, and you just copy the script, the pre-script that was given to you, and take it to ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT that you whatever you want to do, and ChatGPT is gonna spit out the code for you. Okay, the code is the easiest part. Don't get intimidated with the code. Very easiest part. AI has already solved the coding part of computer science. In the final hour, I tried to put together a simple game that would recap everything else that I learned in the past 13 hours. But I got to say, this is a game that I ended up creating. Final thoughts, I'm not a pro yet. Seeing assets in Unity asset stores, but also and Sketchfab gave me the confidence that I can just import it and play around it. And given that I can just copy and tell ChatGPT whatever I want to do, and the ChatGPT is gonna spit out the code. I'm pretty confident that the next video, okay, is gonna be how I created my own game. Otherwise, thank you so much. As you can see, we are already past 1,000 subscribers. This time around, I'm trying to push those 4,000 watch hours. So, 2006 is the best year for me. Take it from me. Otherwise, peace out. Love you so much.